Jack shares his heart wisdom in an episode on poetry, beauty, art. May you enjoy, dear listener, a haiku from me to you for this very special episode of the Heart Wisdom Podcast. 301, The Dharma of Poetry, Rumi, Beauty, Music, and the Art of Awakening. This flowing talk filled with poetry from Rumi, Carl Sandburg, Thich Nhat Hanh was originally recorded April 15th, 1993 at the wonderful Spirit Rock Meditation Center, where Jack still gives talks to these days. Not so many as before, but definitely be on the lookout. If you want to be on the mailing list for Jack's upcoming events, go to jackkornfield.com/newsletter, or just stay up to date by heading to jackkornfield.com, where you can discover quite a treasure trove of amazing in-depth courses, guided meditations, articles, all to help you navigate this life from your intuitive heart wisdom. So, for this episode, in a time when the world seems to be slightly falling apart, it may seem strange to focus on beauty and art and music. But Jack quickly puts that to rest, sharing that poetry and beauty are not a denial of the sorrows of the world, but a grace that holds them and understands them, that holds this irony, the mixture of love and terror that make up life. And I don't know for you, but for me, if I'm ever really stuck or really caught, sometimes there's nothing better than a piece of music, some dancing, a beautiful piece of art, whether analog or digital, or connecting with the beauty and awe that is all around us in this great natural world. And as Jack says, good art, good music, good poetry holds this paradox of love and terror, and doesn't deny the sorrows of the world, but helps us through them as a vehicle from the mind, which often can't handle it, to the heart, which can hold it all. In this highly political time, Jack shares, sometimes the greatest political act is to turn on Mozart, or insert your favorite artist name there, and turn off the news, or to go take a walk by the ocean or the hills during sunset, or to read a poem. Through this, we sense the possibility, in the midst of the 10,000 joys and sorrows, of finding some peace and balance in the heart that can then be brought to the world around us. So, if you would like to scoop up some of that inspiration firsthand, please be inspired to join Jack's Year of Awakening program. This is a year of monthly hangs with Jack, some amazing guest teachers, and some weekly modules to keep your year focused on awakening. The next live stream comes on August 20th. As I said before, please head to jackkornfield.com for all of his courses, guided meditations, articles, Dharma Talks, and more. Otherwise, please light an incense, relax. This is a poetry and flowetry forward episode. So please do rest, relax, and enjoy. Namaste.
I'd like to give a talk this evening that I gave here about a year ago, and once probably 4 or 5 years before that. And so if you've heard it before, I heard my teacher give the same talks, pretty much the same talk over and over again. Maybe there's something in it that you'll hear in a new way. I hope so, or that'd be useful to you. because I'd like to speak about poetry tonight. And part of that came because I was out this past weekend and today, and hearing the sounds of the water and the streams everywhere, and the smells of spring just beginning to push itself up through the earth, and some blossoms on a few of the fruit trees just beginning to shine, and sensing this kind of eternal cycle as again it starts. I mean, I know that the Midwest is having the coldest weather in 80 years or something like that, and that last night it was 35 below zero in North Dakota, and that wasn't with the wind chill. So I'm really grateful that and I wish them well, anyone who lives there. But there's this sense of spring, did you sense it as you kind of, if you got out of your house in your car and walk and smell and move about? And part of this practice that we do together is the practice of awareness or mindfulness. Sometimes it's called the sacred attention. Is the attention that allows us to see the beauty of life even in the midst of its difficulties. There is in the kind or compassionate awareness of meditation a retrieval of harmony and our connection with harmony and beauty in the world. Alfred North Whitehead, the philosopher, said, "Science's exclusion of aesthetics was its most disastrous error." How can we have a technology or a culture or society that doesn't include in its fabric, in its basic decisions, beauty? And that's beauty between people and beauty of the ecology. And without beauty, we are dead to the world, says James Hillman. And of course, art is one expression of that. The dramatists of ancient Athens or Elizabethan England, like Shakespeare and so forth, really what they do is that they offer a language that uplifts and orients and reminds us of the human life that we live in a greater and more sacred context. And it's particularly important in the face of the problems of society, modern society, the fact that we spend more money on prisons than on schools, and that for all that we've done in the area, there's still a tremendous amount of racism, not to speak of warfare and tribalism and hungry people. And it's not to ignore these things, but to see that the source of much of the suffering in the world is the loss of attention and beauty and connection that attention brings with one another. When we're connected, we can't treat one another in quite that way. Rumi, a poem from Rumi to begin with, called "Tending Two Shops." Don't run around this world looking for a hole to hide in. There are wild beasts in every cave, yourself included. And if you live with mice, the cat claws will find you. The only real rest comes when you're alone with the divine. Live in the nowhere that you came from, even though you have an address here. That's why you see things in two ways. Sometimes you look at a person and see a cynical snake. Someone else sees a joyful lover, and you're both right. Everyone is half and half, just like the black and white ox. Joseph looked ugly to his brothers and most handsome to his father. You have eyes that see from that nowhere, and eyes that judge distances, how high and how low. You own two shops, and you run back and forth. Try to close the one that's a fearful trap, getting always smaller. Keep open the shop where you're not selling fish hooks, where you are the fish swimming free. Sometimes the greatest political act is to turn on Mozart and turn off the news, or to walk by the ocean or in the hills in the sunset, or read a poem, to sense the possibility in the midst of all the 10,000 joys and sorrows of finding some peace or balance in this heart that can then be brought to the world around us. Etheridge Knight, he puts it this way, wonderful old black poet. He says, "We free singers be, sometimes swimming in the music, like porpoises playing in the sea. We free singers become agitators at times, become eagles circling the sun, hurling stones at hunters, become scavengers cracking eggs in the palm of our hand. If we didn't have music, dancers would be soldiers too, holding guns in their arms instead of each other. If we didn't have music, dancers would be soldiers too, holding guns in their arms instead of each other." So one of the great gifts of the Dharma, that is, of the Tao, the law, the teachings, is the retrieval of beauty in the midst of all things. It's like the man who went out with his cello into that square in Sarajevo during the sniper fire and the bombing and the mortar shells, and every afternoon at 4, he would bring his cello out and he would play music to the citizens of his neighborhood in Sarajevo. This beauty is not a denial of sorrows of the world, but a grace somehow that holds and understands them. The irony and the mixture of beauty and terror that make up life, the gain and loss and praise and blame, and all of it the fabric of this amazing existence. Konstantinos Kavafi, who's the most beloved of poets of Greece of this century, wrote a poem about the journey to Ithaca, like the journey of Odysseus. When you start on your journey to Ithaca, pray that the road is long, full of adventure, full of knowledge, that the summer mornings are many. Stop at Phoenician markets, purchase fine merchandise, mother of pearl, coral, amber, and ebony, and visit the ancient Egyptian cities to learn all that you can. Keep Ithaca fixed in your mind. To arrive there is, of course, the goal, but do not hurry the voyage at all. Better to let it last for long years, and even to anchor at the isle when you are old, rich with all that you have gained on the way, not expecting that Ithaca will offer you anything. For Ithaca has given you the riches of the voyage. Without her, you would have never taken the road. Poetry, beauty, not as a denial of the struggle of life, but as that graciousness that moves through this that we've been given. And that's the attention one cultivates in sitting and walking and meditation. In language, it's expressed as poetry. You can't get the news from poetry, yet men and women die every day for lack of what is found there. Pablo Neruda wrote at one point, I like this kind of the power of poetry to say something in just a few lines. He says, just the same, it would be delicious to scare a notary public with a cut lily, or to knock a nun dead with one blow in her ear. He's kind of mischievous. The power of a moment of beauty. I think he was raised by nuns, poor Neruda. And we just finished, as you know, this so-called political season, the elections, all of that. There's a poem I like by Veronica Patterson called A Magical Charm Against the Language of Politics. After watching TV, say over and over the names of things, the clean nouns, weeping birch, bloodstone, tanager. Read field guides, atlases, gravestones. At the store, bless each apple by kind, Macintosh, wine sap, delicious, Granny Smith, Jonathan. Enunciate the vegetables, parsnip, okra, calendula. When you have compared the politicians' slippery platforms, chant the spiders, comb-footed, round-headed, orb spider, garden cross, feather-legged, ogre-faced, black widow. Remember that most short verbs are ethical. Hatch, grow, spin, trap, eat. Dig deep, pronounce clearly, pull the words in over your head, hold up for the duration of the season. Oh, thank you. So poetry is the music of language, and Buddhism is filled with poetry. The 100,000 songs or poems of Milarepa, or the beloved Zen poets like Issa and Basho and Ryokan. Ryokan said, "If someone asks my abode, I reply, the east edge of the Milky Way. It's where to find me." And even the Buddha, on the night of his enlightenment, the morning star arose, his awakening took place. The first words were a poem. "O house builder, thou art seen at last, the builder of these walls of sorrow. Broken is the ridgepole, shattered the rafters, free at last. No longer will you build this house. Free, enlightened, awakened am I." And the house builder is the builder of grasping and protection and separateness. Or the Buddha said, "The fragrance of rose bay, sandalwood, and jasmine can travel only as far as the wind. But the fragrance of the good deeds of the heart rise even to the gods." Han Shan is another of the old Chinese poets. The literal meaning of his name is Cold Mountain. He took that name from his monastery. Clouds and mountains all tangled together up in the blue sky, a rough road and deep woods without any travelers. Far away the lone moon, a bright glistening white. Nearby a flock of birds, sobbing like children. One old man sitting alone, perched in these green mountains. A small shack, letting my hair grow white, pleased with the years gone by. This life is like water flowing east to the ocean. Just that sense of contentment, of presence, of this life that we've been given, taking a seat in the midst of it and being at home with oneself. Thich Nhat Hanh, of course, the great and wonderful Zen teacher and poet that he is, begins with poetry. He says, if you can see with the eyes of a poet, where is it? If you can see with the eyes of a poet, you will see clearly that in this piece of paper, there is a cloud floating. This is kind of his most famous teaching. Without a cloud, there would be no water, and without water, the trees cannot grow, and without trees, we could not make paper. So the cloud, and the rain, and the sunlight, and the logger, and the logger's father, and mother, going all the way back to Adam and Eve and before, all in this piece of paper. Everything connected in this great interdependence. In poetry, you can tell the truth, even in one line, like Emily Dickinson. Because I did not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. It's like that, isn't it? It's just one simple line. Or she writes, I'm nobody. Who are you? Are you nobody too? Says the Buddhist side of Emily. I'm nobody. Who are you? Are you nobody too? We come out of nowhere and go to nowhere. As you enter into meditation, as we do together, there are sometimes ideas that we have. All right, I'll meditate and I'll become peaceful and quiet and empty, so forth. But then you discover, like Thich Nhat Hanh's paper, that we contain everything, all things, what Emily Dickinson called the mob within the heart. And so you sit quiet for just a short time, even in this evening. And there's sleepiness and fear and hopes and restlessness and all the unfinished voices and the business that we put aside and didn't want to deal with, those grief and tears that are there waiting for us to weep. And the longing and the love that we never expressed and the creativity. We get to hear all those voices and name them. Oh, there's planning and remembering and sadness and joy and excitement and happiness and anxiety. The mob within the heart. Carl Sandburg knew this. He put it this way. He said, there is a wolf in me, fangs pointed for tearing gashes, a red tongue for raw meat, hot lapping of blood, and I keep the wolf because the wilderness gave it to me, and the wilderness will not let it go. And there is a fox in me, a silver gray fox. I sniff and guess and pick things out of the wind and air, and nose in the dark night, and there's a hog in me, snout and belly, machinery for eating and grunting and sleeping satisfied. I got from the wilderness. There is a fish in me. I know I came from salt blue water gates and scurried with shoals of herring. There is a baboon in me, clambering, clawed, dog-faced, yelping a galoot's hunger, hairy under the armpits. And there is an eagle in me and a mockingbird, and they fly among the Rocky Mountains of my dreams and flights among the Sierra crags, and the mockingbird warbles in the early forenoon before the dew is gone and the Chattanoogas of my hopes. Oh, I got a zoo. I got a menagerie inside my ribs, under my bony head, under my red valve heart, and I got something else. It is a man heart, a woman-child heart. It is a father and mother and lover, came from God knows where, it's going to God knows where. For I am the keeper of the zoo, and I say yes and no, and I sing and kill, and I am a pal of the world. I came from the wilderness, and the wilderness will not let me go. Thank you, Carl. That's the best meditation poem that I know. Haven't you noticed? And Freud put it this way with his struggles in Western psychology to understand. He said, wherever I've gone, a poet has been there before me. So a question for us as we undertake this practice of awakening, the great heart of compassion, the awareness, the eyes of wisdom and knowing, how do we relate to the zoo that we've been given? Meditation is an invitation to presence, aliveness, to a passion, if you will, in the face of all things. Sometimes people mistakenly think of meditation as a kind of withdrawal from life, a removal, a deadening. Let me just tamp down everything, quieted and so forth. But it's not that at all. Thomas Carlyle writes, it is good to use best china, treasured dishes, the most genuine goblet, the oldest lace tablecloth. There is a risk, of course, every time we use anything or anyone shares an intimate moment, a fragile cup of revelation, but not to touch, not to handle the artifacts of being human. That is the quiet crash, the deadly catastrophe, where nothing is enjoyed or broken, spilled or spoken, or stained or mended, where nothing is ever lived, loved, laughed over, wept over, where nothing is lost or found. And so the invitation of awareness, of mindfulness itself, is to open to life, this breath, this step, these experiences of body, of heart, of mind. Rumi, who is probably the most amazing of all spiritual poets, 100,000 verses. They just poured through him like Mozart. I think Mozart was just writing it down as fast as he could. That he was listening to it and saying, hey, where's the paper? The same for Rumi. Actually, Rumi didn't write it down. Rumi had Boswell and was writing, following Samuel Johnson around. Rumi had a couple of disciples who went with him everywhere and kept writing down. And Rumi is just listening to it and saying, well, this is how it is. And, he'd go in the market or in the baths and these incredible things would come out. And Rumi speaks of the spiritual life through the words of poetry and expresses it in 3 dimensions. 3 dimensions. It said the Dharma is good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good in the end. These dimensions of the journey Rumi speaks of as the camel, the lion, and the child. And as you hear, you can sense how each of these images touch the heart, awaken some other part of our sensibility. The camel symbolizes one dimension of spiritual practice, which is necessary devotion, repetition, service, what Gandhi called blessed monotony, the willingness of the heart to make a commitment to sit, to meditate, to pray, to breathe, over and over, breathing in, over and over, breathing out. There's a thought, there's judgment, there's fear. Oh, this is the 45th time I felt fear this month. All right. Fear, acknowledging and allowing that too to come as a wave and be honored respectfully, and then pass as it does. This is the quality of the camel. It's that of manual labor, even in the desert. And one of the things that the camel does is it kneels. If you've ever gone, I went on a camel safari once in the Indian desert. First it kneels and you kind of climb up and you get up and there's this amazing kind of rocking thing that you go through all day. And then we didn't bring enough water. And so there we were, and our guide said, oh, there's a well over there, and brought us, it was this kind of green-covered desert bracken. Well, no thank you, we said. We'll just be in the hot desert and see if we can make it for the rest of the day. The camel is bowing, honoring, taking what is given again and again and saying yes to this too, even though it's difficult. It's the willingness to make this human journey from birth through life to death. One of the great poems of this quality of the camel is Rilke's poem on the man watching. I can tell by the ways the trees beat after so many dull days on my worried window panes that a storm is coming, he begins, speaking of the storm. What we choose to fight is so tiny, and what fights with us is so great. If only we would let ourselves be dominated as things do some immense storm, we would become strong too. When we win, it's with small things, and the triumph itself makes us small. What is extraordinary and eternal does not want to be bent by us. I mean the angel who appeared to the wrestlers of the Old Testament when the wrestlers' sinews grew long like metal strings. He felt them under his fingers like chords of deep music. Whoever was beaten by this angel, or often simply declined the fight, went away proud and strengthened and great from that harsh hand. Winning does not tempt that one. This is how we grow, by being defeated decisively by constantly greater things. So this is the quality of the camel that's willing just to go through the desert of one's life in a humble way, not a kind of, oh, I'm a humble person, but the healing that takes place where we say yes, even to what's difficult. And of course, one has to find the camel. Rumi says, you've lost your camel, my friend? Everyone's giving you advice. You don't know where your camel is, but you do know these casual directions are wrong. Even someone who hasn't lost a camel, who's never even owned a camel, gets in on the excitement. Yes, I've lost my camel too, a big reward for whoever finds it. He says this to be part owner of your camel when you find it. He has indeed lost something, but he doesn't know it, wanting and imitating others. But what to do? Calling out what the others call out, suddenly he sees a camel there, the one he didn't even know he lost. And then he does become a seeker. He turns aside and goes by himself toward this camel. The sincere friend asks, why have you left my search? Up till now, I was a fake. I was flattering you, stealing camel descriptions. But now I know the camel is real. I saw it for myself. Like a thief, I crept and entered a house and discovered it was my own home. Where is the camel? Like a thief, I crept and entered a house and discovered it was my own home.